Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the match preview. Everton versus Sheffield Wednesday. Fourth round of the FA Cup. This Sunday evening. Strange time. Very strange time, Sunday evening. But no, really good chance for Everton to get through. This is the kind of fixture we would wanted. You know, Sheffield Wednesday is an old-fashioned
big club
in our eyes because we grew up with them in the Football League and the Premier League, and obviously maybe for younger fans they don't see it the same. They're struggling at the moment in the bottom three, actually below Rotherham, aren't they, who we played in the third round. But with 10 days or so off that Everton have had, this is a really good opportunity, isn't it, to get through to that fifth round?
Yeah, it's the kind of tie you want, isn't it, when you're looking to build momentum into a cup competition. And that's not being disrespectful to Sheffield Wednesday, but I think Everton will be looking where they are in the season. You've got Sheffield Wednesday, who are, second to bottom in the Championship, just changed the manager. They've got Neil Thompson, the manager at the moment, who's an acting manager, interim manager. They've had Gary Monk this season, and then Tony Pulis had 10 games, and he left the post recently. So they're in a little bit of a flux. They've lost 10 of the 24 games, I think it is. So they're not in great form. So for Everton, it represents an excellent chance of getting through to the fifth round. Another home tie in the fifth round, which is great, albeit could be a tough game against Spurs if they can get past Wickham. So it's a good opportunity. But we found out against Rotherham that if you don't play to your full potential, then Sheffield Wednesday will prove a difficult game, definitely. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, they've had a few, they've had their problems this season, and they've missed the last couple of games as well, haven't they, with COVID related postponements. So they'll look at this game as probably just a break, a big opportunity. Okay, there's no fans there. And I thought against Rotherham that would be a big difference, but it wasn't. For us, it seemed to be a problem because we just couldn't get ourselves going on the day. And I suppose that's one of the things for this game, isn't it? There's going to be a couple of changes, I imagine. Don't know whether there'll be as many changes as there was in the last round, because we've seen in the League Cup how we started off with a completely different team, and then as we progressed, we started adding the quality first team players to it. I mean, there was still enough in the Rotherham game, really should have dealt with it. But because I think just different players coming from different positions and people coming back from injuries and so, it made it very difficult. We never really, even though we got started in the game, we took the lead, we never really continued that. And I just wonder whether that'll come into the thinking for this game, because it's, there's 3 games next week. But because we have had that 10 days off, I just wonder what the manager will do in terms of the starting lineup. Obviously, Decore will start because he'll be missing Wednesday against Leicester, so that's a big bonus. I think the fact that he starts, not a bonus that he misses, but Leicester. But it's just one of those things. But I think the more consistency we have on the side, the easier we'll have to obviously go and do the job we need to do.
Yeah, I should imagine he'll change the goalkeeper. I imagine Olsen will play as he did against Rotherham. Obviously, Pickford came back for Wolves, didn't he? And we haven't played since, but I imagine Olsen will play. And then it's a case of trying to... It is different because, against Rotherham, it was getting players, trying to give a few people a little bit of a rest, give them an opportunity of a breather, while we, because the games are coming up thick and fast again. But it isn't the case this time, so it'll be interesting to see what he does centre-back, what his centre-back partnership will be. He left Yerry Mina out of the Rotherham game. He was on the bench and he ended up having to come on and calm the defence down because they were having some joy through the middle, and obviously, depends what he does with the back four, really. I think that's an interesting one. Does Seamus Coleman play? I think Coleman probably will, and I think Mason Holgate will or could drop down to the bench with Leicester City in mind. Does Luca Digne play a left back, and give him another game to get on, or doesn't he didn't bring in Kunku in against Rotherham because obviously it was Dean's comeback game. So does Dean just continue that? And, what does that mean for Ben Godfrey? So there'll be those kind of decisions which, it makes sense to play someone like Seamus Coleman, because I think Mason Holgate, it seems at the moment, is the number 1 right back in Carlo Ancelotti's eyes at this moment in time. And so Seamus has got to try to keep that fitness up ready and force his way back in. And then into the midfield, like you just said, the core he'll play. I don't think he would have done had he not been suspended, but I think he will. I think he'll obviously probably have Tom Davies in there and maybe, you know, maybe Gylfi Sigurdsson will start because he didn't start against Rotherham, but then he played up front against Wolves. So it'll be interesting to see whether if Dom and Calvert-Lewin's fit, if this is the game they bring him back for, just to get him back up to speed with Leicester in mind, or whether it's Richarlison through the middle, or whether it's Cenk Tosun again. He played against Rotherham. So that it is going to be interesting. He's got some decisions to make. I mean, if Dom's fit, do you play him just to try? I mean, he played against Sheffield Wednesday last year and scored a couple of goals. Do you play him in this one just to try and get him a goal again, because he's gone 5 or 6 games without a goal, and as a centre forward, that always plays on your mind when you stop scoring.
No, not for me.
I
wouldn't play him. I'd play with Richarlison up front. And have Dom on the bench and bring him on for the last 20 minutes or something like that. No point. I wouldn't play either both of them in the team. I think we've got the options to mix it about a little bit. I think we can mix it about and still have a good side. I think. You know,
I think I'd play a Iwobi again.
Yeah, I'd play a Iwobi and
James.
maybe James. I don't know. Maybe play him. What the thing is, you've got to. I'm not saying you've got to worry about what they're going to do, but I think the last game, which was completely, obviously different for different reasons. Like I said, Digne and James Rodriguez were coming back into the side. So, but there wasn't just players like Cenk Tosun coming into the side. There was players who've been out injured as well coming back, and that's where it felt really. They had more energy than us, and I just I think with James Rodriguez being back and with with Digne having played at Wolves, they can go in and they'll be a lot more. Fresher for this, a lot more up to speed on it, and they'll have that freshness as well. So we know someone like Sheffield Wednesday, they're going to have a lot of energy, and they're going to, that's what they're going to try and overrun us at times. But at the end of the day, they're in the bottom 3 in the Championship, and if you can't cope with that, then if you can't cope with a team just physically trying to dominate you, or doing what. Those little things, then what's the point? You know what I mean? It's like, because that was the point when we played Rotherham, we didn't seem to have a control for like an hour, because they just kept on turning us really, really quickly. And then once, like you just said there, Mina came on and stopped the outball, and Decore come on. We got a grip at that really quickly. So
I think it was energy in midfield.
Yeah,
we had in midfield that day. We had Andre Gomez, who started really well and then just after 20 minutes faded for a bit. Tom Davies was in there and was a little bit sloppy in possession, but
with James Rodriguez
coming back, who wasn't up to speed, whereas against
Andy Gordon wasn't getting back. Shared the manager.
So there was some. There was reasons why. I mean, it's not acceptable because they're all very good they're all Premier League footballers. James is obviously a talent above, but I mean, the others are Premier League footballers, and so you would have expected Andre Gomez to be able to dominate that. But it seems at the minute with him, his cameos are better than when he starts. But I think he will start this game because I think to keep him fresh for those 20-minute cameos in the Premier League, he's got to play games.
Well, that's not a bad thing if you've got the energy of a Decore in there, which we will have, because you'll start with missing.
I think the midfield 3 will probably be Decore, Gomez and Davies, I should imagine. I think Gylfi will probably be sub again, just to keep him with Leicester in mind. And then you're right, maybe he'll throw Richarlison through the middle and have Iwobi one side, and maybe someone like Bernard on the left, and maybe James will sit on the bench just in case. But whatever we do, we've got to be able to match them. And they've got Premier League experience players.
Do you think we need to keep that consistency at the back? Because I wouldn't necessarily put the blame down on the defenders for the last game, because I think, like you just said, the midfield got overrun at times, and the defence were always sort of just backpedaling at times. So I just wonder whether keeping that consistency, or you can move it around, because all those players have played this season, haven't they? Whether Ben Godfrey comes in at centre back and you know, from left back and you've got Luca Digne to drop in there, and like you just said, Mason Holgate might start, Keane to keep the consistency. You've got different variations, but they're all players you've played, haven't they? So it's not too air-sharp. You're not going to be bringing anyone into that back line who hasn't played a dozen games this season or more.
No, there'll be. If he makes the 2 changes at full-back, it'll obviously make us not as solid, but it'll give us an extra attacking impetus, won't it? Because obviously both Seamus Coleman and Luca Digne like to get forward. What he does as centre-back will be really interesting, because he might look and think, well, I don't want Yerry Mina to have to play 3 games in 6 days. I imagine Michael Keane will start.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll go with Godfrey and Keane at centre-back, or maybe he'll give Holgate a go and say to Godfrey, well, you have a rest now because you played loads of games. We've got a game again on Wednesday. Because it's going to be interesting, because Luca Digne is fit again and obviously needs to play. He's our most creative player with Hammers. Against Wolves, he played left wing.
Yeah.
And I know it wasn't perfect, but at times he was great for the outball, and it's just his quality. You know, he had an assist in the game, and I thought he had a really good game. That was his first Premier League game back. But then, you know, what do you do? There's going to be a time when Ben Godfrey, you know, Luca Digne goes back in at left back.
He will.
So I wonder if Everton will, because the Core's not fit for the Leicester game, whether Everton will continue to use Luca Digne there. It might just to give them a different ball in the Leicester game. So for this one,
I just don't think he was fit. I think it showed in the last game, in the last cup game. I think he was horrendous.
He's back in 6 weeks. It's unbelievable for him to even be on the pitch.
He was horrendously off the pace, and he wasn't fit. And I think for the Wolves game, they've looked at that and gone, right, let's be solid at the back. You play midfield where you can get a few more breathers in, and do what you need to do, higher up the pitch.
So would you play him in this game?
Yeah,
Sunday?
Of course I would have played him left back. He's our left back. Ben Godfrey's not our left back.
No,
there's no way you can.
But with Leicester in mind, so you'd still play him this
Of course
Sunday.
I would. I play him in all 3 games. There shouldn't be any excuse now. He played an hour against in the last cup game, and he's played 90 minutes against Wolves, and he's had 10 days now to build onto that fitness, and he should be available now for these 3 games without a problem. He's one of the best left backs in the world. Don't care what anyone says about that. I'm not getting into any arguments about who's the best or whatever, but he's one of the best left backs in the world.
Tops of shadow.
You know, so he needs to be our left back, okay. And we need to find that way of being solid and balanced going forward.
It is by playing 3 centre-backs.
So,
and I don't mean 3 as in a back
you mean
3.
one on the right back.
Like Holgate or Godfrey at right back with the 2 centre-backs.
So then the manager
gives us the opportunity.
The manager then has to make the decision eventually if he's going to play Mason Holgate, Ben Godfrey on that side. Is he going to put one of them in midfield, or is he just going to say, fight for your place, lads? Dead simple.
It's probably a bit of everything there, though, isn't it? Because Seamus Coleman's not ready for the scrappy. Yeah, I'm not saying he should be in our starting lineup every week, but he's only 32.
Fight for your place.
Fight for your, you know, be like Leighton Baines. If you have to play 15 games a season, be brilliant for 15 games a season.
But also, Seamus Coleman's the kind of man who will work incredibly hard every day in training to push the other 2. Yeah. And if the other 2, if one of them gets past them, then he's the kind of fella be like, well, all this is brilliant for the club.
And if you do drop your level, he'll be back in. Yeah. So that's what it's about. But we'll be, like I said, it'll be a tough game. There's some big decisions to make because it's a big game. If Everton win, they're in the 5th round. You know, against, and like I said, it
home game,
could be Spurs, it could be Wickham. You'd expect it to be Spurs, of course you would. If it's Tottenham, it's a great opportunity to get in the quarter-finals. All you can do is ask for home games, isn't it?
It's sad though, isn't it? Like when you look at a club like Sheffield Wednesday, because I always think we had the fear that that could happen to us. What's happened to them?
I think probably a lot of clubs from the 6th down had that fear for years, you know, and because the money that you get higher up and the backing you get enables you to make good choices. Sheffield Wednesday have been a traditional big club, you know, have been around for years and years in terms of Premier League football. Okay, they've been out of it for a while now, but for us growing up, they were always there.
They're a club that just couldn't adapt, I don't think, to the Premier League. I think they're just one of those clubs where
they're an old-fashioned run club.
But that's what I'm saying, where we just clung on, to it all. I think they
made some bad decisions.
No, that's what I'm saying. They made some really. I think some of them
bad appointments, bad
chased the dream, and
don't forget they had some players. The Canio, wonderful. Benito Carboni was a great little player for them. David Hirst I loved him as a striker out at Everton to get him, and he nearly joined Everton a couple of times. He was fantastic, you know, and they had good players like Nicholas Alexanderson who come to Everton and, okay, it didn't work out, but they've always had, you know, Thingy, the right back, Roland Nielsen, I loved him, he was boss, you know, and they had people in, you know, going back years, Chris Woods, I think, was in for them, but they had Kevin Pressman, who was a boss goalie, and they got to a stage...
He got the greatest penalty I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, just smashed it right down the middle, yeah, but they've had, you know, good players, and they've got a good history, and, you know, been to Hillsborough loads of times, and, you know, you're right, they just some bad decisions, and it's that old thing of unable to attract big backers at a time when it was all about money. You had to be run really smartly, and unfortunately they weren't. Like a lot of clubs have done it, they weren't, and for me, they're a club that absolutely should be in the Premier League, or should be fighting.
And yet there's a generation of kids who don't.
No, well, they wouldn't, of course. No, but I look at...
But I'm saying that's football now, though, isn't it?
Sheffield Wednesday have always had like 30,000. The gates,
they were always a big
you know,
club.
brilliantly supported. Great football city, Sheffield, with them and Sheffield United. You know, Sheffield United are in there at the moment and stuff like that. So, big club, but they've got experienced players. I was just going through the scrum. You had Callum Peterson, who was at Cardiff, wasn't he? And I think he was at Norwich. And they've got Dominic Iorfa, seems to have been on forever. Josh Windass. There's their names, you know, Barry Bannon. You know, these are all lads who've got Premier League experience coming into, you know, Kieran Westwood was a goalie Everton seemed to be linked with every year for a few years ago. So, it's, you know, Andre Green had left Villa and has gone there. So they've got players, if we're not careful, Jordan Rhodes, who I think for every transfer window Jordan for about Rhodes. 6, it was, should Everton buy him? And, you know, because he was prolific, wasn't he, in the lower leagues? And, you know, I think it didn't quite work out, but he's there. So there's players who you've got to be aware of. There's no question about that. And obviously young Adenoyan, who was at Everton, he hasn't made his debut before, but he's left Everton to go to Sheffield Wednesday in September. So they've got players who will have to, you know, who will fancy a game against the Premier League team. We've been in the Premier League before. We can, you know, can we make a name for ourselves? So Everton have got to be really, really aware of this one at the weekend and look to the Rotherham game and see, yeah, we started great and we got the goal, but why did we stop playing? Was it the fact that they were able to flip the game? I don't think it was. I think they looked at us and went, after 20 minutes, these have took the foot off the pedal here. And they started getting Ola Sunday into the game and they started pushing us back and we didn't react. No. And Everton do this in a lot of cup games against lower league teams or teams
stay in the same pace, stay in the same gear, and before you know it, the opponents are making chances and you know you're sluggish and you can't get out of that gear. It might have just been in that game that we had too many players either coming into the team, you know, out the cold or coming back from injury. And it was just a poor mix. As you said before, midfield was completely overrun in that game. Completely overrun. You know, we're carrying James Rodriguez, to be honest. He was a passenger for most of the game. I mean, he sets up the winning goal because that's what he does. But he was a passenger for most of the game. He looked leggy.
Played in starts, didn't he?
You know, Andre Gomez was just, they were getting on him. His touch wasn't great. Gordon was the same. You know, he had a bright start. So it's about having the right mindset, and as I say, picking the right team. It doesn't have to be the best starting 11. It doesn't have to be our strongest. It shouldn't have to be playing a team in the bottom 3 of the championship. And you know, these players should be able to carry themselves and get to, you know, have the right mindset, like the mindset that, you know, got us wins last time out. And you know,
you've got to go out and you've got to give them the ultimate respect and treat them as if they're a team at the top of the Premier League and go and work your socks off. And if you do that, that's when good teams put these teams to bed early on. And then the game's done after an hour. You know, you're 2 or 3-0, well, you know, 2-0's a scary scoreline for Everton. But if you were 3-0 up after an hour, you then can go, right, you come and sit with me now when we'll put them. The 5 subs as well, it enables you to give them fresh legs for the last half an hour of the game. It's when you go in and, like you said, you never change your level. Do you know what I mean? You start off at a pace and you go, oh, we're on top here and we've got a goal and oh, this will be comfortable. Before you know it, they flip it, a couple of long balls, the winning headers, and you start getting nervy. And you know, it's a game that's going to be decided on the night as well. So get it done and dusted as early as you can.
Yeah,
tough game.
Definitely. There you go. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on this one. It's difficult to analyse as well because they haven't played the last couple of games.
No.
We haven't played for 10 days, so it's a difficult one to know where we all are at the moment. The weather's been absolutely horrendous as well,
Snow
so
forecast
it'll be
as well
interesting
for
to
the
see what
weekend.
Goodison's like, because I've known Goodison, the last time we played, I thought was poor. But that's a general thing. I think a lot of the football pitches are poor at the moment. I don't know whether that's down to not being able to look after them properly or not be able to get the right equipment in there, you know, the big lights or whatever. I don't know. You can come with the COVID and everything. I don't know. But pitches generally look around the Premier League look quite poor. So
and the weather's been...
We've had bad rain, we've had snow. They might not even be able to get over here. Snake Pass might be shut.
The snow forecast Saturday, Sunday, so they'll come over Saturday, won't they? But the snow forecast Saturday, Sunday, so again, that will play into the pitch, won't it? I think there's no doubt it'll be on for the simple reason that there's no crowd coming up, so that's normally what it is. So be a tough game, but hopefully we can do enough.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments on this one. What team would you like to see picked ahead of, obviously, Leicester and Newcastle coming up in the Premier League as well? I mean, can't get too ahead of ourselves. We want to get to, well, we don't want a good cup run. We want to win the bloody thing. Simple as that.
No one's happy with a good cup run.
Hey, great cup, let's get to the semi-final and lose.
Well, the Carabao Cup, have we had a good cup run in that? Got to the quarters.
We've never won it, so we've never had...
but people go like, good cup run and 7th in the league.
Just say you want to win it.
You want to win it.
They want to win it. That's all you want. You want to win the FA Cup. So this is, you know, I mean, this is not where it begins, because it began against Rotherham. But, you know what I mean.
Got to carry on.
Leave us your thoughts in the comments. Yeah. Give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want more great videos, live daily videos. Join us on Patreon. There'll be a link there or in the description. See you later.